This is about building an ice ark, an ice fishing hut. As a part of the Shelburne Museum's Art in Winter exhibit, several area architects were asked to design and build a number of ice fishing shanties. And four of us, Andrew Chardin is here, agreed gleefully. This was it's hard to imagine, but it's sort of a dream project, you know. No budget, tiny house, so to speak. So we leapt at this, $1,000 budget. We resolved to try to do it for the money available. That didn't include our labor. Fishing on the ice in our climate is common, it's social, a necessity in some cases, and very beautiful. The ice, Marilyn Madison is here actually. She's the one that really takes great photographs of the ice. Our goal was to build a very modest hut. Modest materials. It was supposed to be practical and function effectively and be simple to move, both about on the ice and transport by trailer to lakes in our region. This is not our project. But it was also to be an object of beauty. We looked to the ice itself, large bergs, fragmented, reflective, light, dense, and brimming with life-giving water. And we wanted to echo those forms and also to echo that substantial presence beneath the surface of the water. The design beginnings reflect that intent, this kind of vastness under the water. We hoped, metaphorically, I guess, to say that our project was going to have deep meaning, even if it was somewhat invisible below the surface. You get the idea, you know. And it was also to be sort of a laboratory project, you know. We often don't get to experiment with our clients' money. And so our notion is generally to be responsible. We also wanted to merge craft with the more technical aspects of making buildings. The ice ark was an opportunity to experiment. Our drawings were often digital as we explored form, connective tissue, and transparency, but we did not want to abandon the handmade. We confirmed our directions with handmade models, simply made and exploratory and experimental in their nature and method. And our structure, as you can see here, echoed the structure of wooden boats, of the rib cages of large fish. The skin, the outer surface, was to be the membrane, much like the birch or canvas of boats from our past. And we returned to forms that were both humble, elegant, and had that look of belonging that one feels when you have it close to right. So there was this back and forth between those objects made by hand and those expressed digitally by the modern tools we utilize now in most of our work. I don't really do that sort of stuff, but we have a lot of people that do. And we determined to use known and new technical methods. The ribs and skin were to be fabricated by a computer-driven CNC machine, a kind of robotic router, and then, of course, as you can see here, the chassis was really something that was handmade. It was sort of pulled apart, assembled in my basement, and then sort of trucked to the place where we were going to assemble it. This is one of these CNC machines. You can't really see all the electronic workings of it, but basically it takes a piece of plywood and cuts it out for you. Very, very precisely drills holes in it. And these are sort of sheets of plywood that have been subjected to torment by that machine. Anyway, it's a miraculous thing. I don't understand how it works. But as before, we would return to the handmade. The skin was to be tied or bound to the ribs, and we explored multiple ways of doing that. Here you see one of those connective methods. You know, this was just some strapping with a dowel. And we thought, you know, I think at some point we might untie the skin from the ribs. So we wanted to give ourselves that kind of flexibility. In retrospect, that's never, ever going to happen, given the labor we put into it. And in the end, we used a kind of red paracord for the binding of skin to rib. It was not lost on us that we, in part, were playing with the line, those aspects of fishing that enable the catching of the fish in the first place. So here you see the ribs now on top of the chassis before the skin. So all of those ribs have been cut out on a computer-driven router. Now here's sort of the skin. You can see the red paracord stitching on the outside. And it's about to sort of go onto a trailer and be moved from a garage that Burlington City Arts lent us for a period of time to assemble this thing and move to the museum site. I'd spoken previously of sort of the practical and the purposeful. Maybe I didn't say that. It was one of these notes here somewhere, but I don't think I talked about it. And we used the leftover cuts of the plywood. You know, when we cut these ribs out, we had all sorts of stuff. So we used it for the floor, and you can see sort of the 3 little hatchways that would sort of go down through the ice. A lot of people don't know very much about ice fishing, and I'd include myself in that lot, but they kept saying to us, you see those tiny little holes in the floor? They kept saying, you know, you're not going to catch very big fish through those holes. You know, which was true. Anyway, you can kind of see on the ceiling there's a steel, oh, whoops, that's the trouble with these 20-second things, you know. But anyway, we had a kind of a galvanized rod right down the middle of the ceiling, and we envisioned hanging the fishing line over that galvanized rod down into the hole, and the other end being attached to our ears while we were snoozing. And so when the fish actually came, we would be rudely awakened and bang, you know. So here you get a close-up detail of the stitching. And all of these holes, as I said, were, you know, computer calculated, all this sort of stuff. And we also wanted the thing to be wonderfully transparent and translucent. And you'll see in the nighttime shots that the movement of light through the leftover portions of those holes, you can kind of get a smattering of it here. Now, as you all know, and Marilyn, I know will bring this up and gossip around after, we didn't really have a winter this year. We had no winter whatsoever. We never had ice like this out on, but we hired a photographer who magically created a winter. And, you know, it was not lost on us that, that this, tragically, you know, may in fact be the winter of our future, and that our ice ark, appropriately named, you know, might be a symbol of that unfortunate future. So I hope it doesn't come, of course, but there you have it. Thanks.